food prices are quietly climbing, and most families won't notice until it's already too late to do anything about it. Here's something most shoppers don't think about. By the time a new price appears on a store shelf, the cost pressures behind it have been building for 3 to 6 months. Farms, factories, fuel, and freight all move before the price tag does. That gap is exactly where smart shoppers can gain an advantage. Today we're counting down 12 grocery items you should pick up at Walmart before August 1st, 2026. These aren't random products. Each one is under real supply pressure right now, and each one offers long shelf life, high nutritional value, and strong price protection when bought today. Let's start at the bottom of the list and work our way up to the one item that almost nobody thinks to stockpile, but probably should. 12. All-purpose flour. Walk into any Walmart and the flour section looks completely full. Bags stacked high, plenty of options, reasonable prices. That abundance makes it easy to ignore. But that's the trap. What most people don't realize is that flour isn't just flour. It's the base ingredient behind sandwich bread, burger buns, frozen pizza, pasta, cookies, pancakes, and hundreds of other processed foods Americans buy every single week. The average American goes through somewhere between 130 and 140 pounds of wheat products every year. When the cost of wheat moves, everything built on top of it moves with it. And wheat has been under pressure. Major growing states like Kansas, North Dakota, and Montana have dealt with repeated drought cycles and rising production costs. On top of that, milling and transportation costs have stayed elevated. Early August is historically when many manufacturers and retailers reset their supply contracts for the second half of the year. That's when price adjustments tend to become visible on shelves. Walmart's purchasing power helps delay that, especially with their store brand, which consistently comes in lower per pound than most competing chains. But there's a right way and a wrong way to store flour once you get it home. Don't leave it in the paper bag after opening. Moisture turns it and creates the right conditions for insects to develop. Transfer it to a sealed airtight container right away. For even longer storage, pop the sealed container in the freezer for a few days first to eliminate any potential insect eggs. A few dollars spent on flour today might cover more future meals than almost anything else in your cart. 11. Peanut butter. It sits quietly on the shelf for a few dollars. No glass case, no special label, just a jar of peanut butter. But think about what that jar actually represents. It's a quick breakfast, a last-minute lunch, a protein boost in a smoothie, a sauce base for a weeknight dinner. Around 90% of American households buy peanut butter regularly, and the average person goes through about 7 pounds of it every year. 2 tablespoons alone deliver 7 to 8 grams of protein alongside healthy fats, vitamin E, and magnesium. One large 40-ounce jar can stretch across more than 70 servings. Very few foods at that price point go that far. The United States is one of the world's top peanut producers, with most of the crop coming out of Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and Texas. But fertilizer, fuel, labor, and shipping costs have kept steady upward pressure on production. As second-half supply agreements take hold, price adjustments tend to show up in the peanut butter aisle. Walmart's Great Value Natural Peanut Butter frequently undercuts both national brands and smaller jar sizes on a per-ounce basis. Check the shelf tag's unit price, not just the sticker price. That small comparison can save your family a real amount of money over time. One thing worth knowing about natural peanut butter, the oil sitting on top is not a defect. It's just how real peanut butter behaves without artificial stabilizers. Stir it well, store the jar in the fridge, and the flavor stays consistent for months. An unopened jar kept in a cool, dry place holds quality for up to 2 years. Once opened and refrigerated, it stays at its best for 6 to 9 months. That's a lot of meals covered by one smart purchase. 10. Pasta. 1 box. $1 to $1.50. And the dinner options it unlocks are practically endless. Pasta has been a fixture in American kitchens for generations because it does something almost no other pantry item can do. It changes identity completely based on what you pair with it. Tonight, it's beef and tomato sauce. Tomorrow, it's garlic and olive oil. The weekend calls for a creamy chicken pasta. Same box, completely different meals every time. Americans consume billions of servings of pasta every year. One 16-ounce box makes 4 to 6 main course servings depending on how it's prepared. And because dry pasta holds such low moisture content, it can maintain quality for 2 to 3 years or longer in a properly sealed container. It's one of the rare pantry items you can stock up on and genuinely forget about until you need it. Durum wheat, the primary ingredient in dry pasta, is sourced largely from North American harvests and major export regions like Canada. Weather disruptions and ongoing milling and energy costs are expected to keep price pressure on wheat-based products through the back half of the year. Walmart's great value pasta, especially spaghetti, penny, and elbow macaroni, consistently stays at one of the most competitive price points available. Don't leave opened pasta sitting in its original cardboard box. Moisture and insects can degrade quality fast. Transfer it to an airtight jar or container and keep it somewhere cool and dry. Cooked pasta stores well in the fridge for 3 to 5 days, so cooking ahead and saving portions can cut your weekly kitchen time significantly. 9. Butter. There are shortcuts in the kitchen, and then there are non-negotiables. For cooks who know what they're doing, butter falls firmly in the second category. No substitute has quite the same richness, texture, or depth it adds to a finished dish. A spoonful stirred into mashed potatoes transforms them. A pat melted into a pan before eggs makes the difference between something forgettable and something worth waking up for. But producing 1 pound of real butter requires more than 21 pounds of whole milk. That concentrated process means butter prices track dairy market shifts very closely and very quickly. As dairy production costs rise through the second half of the year, butter on store shelves tends to be among the first dairy products to reflect that pressure. Walmart keeps great value real butter priced very competitively compared to most traditional grocery chains. And here's the best part. Butter freezes perfectly. Buy it now while supply conditions are favorable, seal the sticks, and move them straight to the back of your freezer. It holds quality there for 6 months to a full year without losing texture or flavor once thawed. The common mistake is keeping butter in the refrigerator door. That spot fluctuates in temperature and exposes butter to odors from surrounding foods. Freeze what you don't need immediately and pull sticks out as needed. Next time you're in that dairy aisle, you'll be pulling from your own supply at yesterday's price instead of reading a new tag and doing the mental math. 8. Extra virgin olive oil. Picture that moment when a stream of golden oil hits a hot pan right before vegetables go in, or gets drizzled over a finished salad right before dinner is served. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the most quietly essential ingredients in a functioning kitchen. Unlike butter, its value extends beyond flavor. It's also a long-term investment in heart health, consistently supported by nutritional research over decades. But the price is not an accident. Spain produces roughly 40% of the world's olive oil. 3 back-to-back poor harvests across the Mediterranean driven by prolonged drought have pulled global supply dramatically lower. When the world's largest olive oil producer takes repeated hits, the entire supply chain responds. Those cost pressures continue filtering through into pricing adjustments expected during the second half of this year. At Walmart, The great value extra virgin olive oil remains one of the more competitively priced options available per ounce, especially in larger bottle sizes. Two words matter most when you're choosing olive oil at the shelf: extra virgin. Oils labeled only as pure or light have typically been processed with heat, which strips out most of the natural antioxidants that make olive oil worth buying. Look for cold pressed on the label and store the bottle deep in a cool, dark pantry away from heat sources and direct light. Heat and light speed up oxidation and degrade the oil quickly. Buying a quality bottle now means every meal you pour it into over the coming months costs less than it would have if you waited. 7. Whole bean coffee. For a significant portion of the population, the first cup of coffee in the morning isn't really optional. It's the 5 quiet minutes before everything else starts. That ritual is deeply personal, and it's under genuine price pressure right now. Brazil and Vietnam together account for roughly 55% of global coffee production. When both are hit by severe drought simultaneously, global green coffee inventories drop to levels that push futures sharply higher. That translates directly into what you'll see on coffee aisle price tags during the second half of this year. At Walmart, the smart move is heading for the large 2 to 3 pound bags under the Great Value brand. Larger sizes consistently deliver the lowest cost per ounce, and buying ahead of upcoming price adjustments locks in meaningful savings for your daily routine. But here's a tip that separates people who know coffee from those who don't. Don't buy pre-ground just to save a few seconds. The moment coffee is ground, it starts losing its aromatic oils rapidly. Those oils are exactly what makes coffee taste like coffee. Whole beans are their own best protection. Bring them home, divide them into airtight containers, and store them in the freezer. Pull out just enough each week to grind fresh. The coffee you make this way will taste noticeably better, and the supply sitting in your freezer will hold quality far longer than anything pre-ground sitting in a bag on the counter. 6. Eggs. Ask yourself which grocery item people check first when they want to know whether the cost of living is going up or coming down. Most Americans don't look at beef. They don't look at milk. They look at eggs. Egg prices function as a kind of psychological barometer for the grocery budget as a whole. A steady carton price feels reassuring. A jump of even $1 feels like a signal. And right now, there are real reasons for that signal to keep coming. Recent bird flu outbreaks across the United States forced the culling of more than 40 million laying hens to control the spread of disease. That sudden reduction in the national egg-laying flock, combined with higher feed and operational costs, has kept supply under consistent pressure. Walmart has worked to keep great value eggs as competitively priced as possible. But as existing supply agreements expire before August 1st, pricing changes in the refrigerated section become more likely heading into the back half of the year. Don't panic buy dozens of cartons and fill your refrigerator past its capacity. Fresh eggs decline in quality faster when storage temperatures fluctuate. The practical approach is to keep 3 weeks of normal usage on hand and rotate through them. Great value large 18-count cartons offer the best per egg value for regular family use. Eggs are the ingredient that connects breakfast to dinner, weekday meals to weekend cooking. Keeping a steady, well-priced supply on hand is one of the simplest ways to protect your weekly food budget right now. 5. Ground beef. You can build another factory. You can run production 24 hours a day to make more pasta or canned goods, but you cannot make a calf reach maturity any faster than nature allows. That biological timeline is the core reason ground beef prices work differently from almost every other food on this list. The U.S. beef cattle herd has declined to its lowest count since 1951. Prolonged drought across much of the western United States scorched grazing pastures and pushed many ranchers into decisions they couldn't avoid. When producers sell off breeding herds because they can no longer cover costs, rebuilding takes years. That's not a short-term disruption. It's a structural supply gap that will take time to close, which means sustained price pressure on beef is likely to continue well beyond this summer. When shopping Walmart's meat section, the family pack trays typically offer a noticeably lower price per pound than smaller prepackaged options. That savings adds up quickly if ground beef is a weekly staple in your household. But don't toss the whole tray into the freezer as is. Ice crystals can form and degrade the meat's texture and flavor over time. The better approach is to divide the meat into meal-sized portions, flatten each one inside a zip-top freezer bag to remove excess air, and then freeze them flat. Flat portions thaw quickly and take up far less space. Stock a few of those portions in your freezer this week, and the next time you want burgers on the weekend, the hard part is already handled. 4. Canned chicken. Here's a scenario worth thinking through. Your freezer loses power overnight. The grocery store's fresh meat section is wiped out during a weather event. What does dinner look like? For people who keep canned chicken stocked in their pantry, the answer is simple. For everyone else, it's a stressful problem without an obvious solution. Canned chicken breast earns its place on this list because of one advantage that no fresh meat can offer: complete independence. It doesn't need refrigeration. It doesn't need a stove for preparation. A single 12.5-ounce can of great value chicken breast contains roughly 60 grams of protein and carries a shelf life of up to 5 years. That's not a backup food. That's a foundation ingredient with extraordinary durability. Experienced home cooks who shop Walmart's canned food aisle almost never grab a single can. They go straight for the 4-pack or 6-pack multi-pack options. Buying in multiples consistently lowers the cost per serving, making it one of the most efficient protein purchases available. And the preparation time is minimal. Open the can, drain the liquid, mix with a little mayonnaise and chopped celery, and you have a rich filling for sandwiches, a protein addition for salads, or a base for a quick pot of soup. Everything is already cooked and ready. No thawing, no prep, no cleanup beyond the can itself. Set a multi-pack in the back of your pantry this week, and you'll have a reliable dinner option waiting for you on the busiest days ahead. 3. Canned tuna. Pick up a can of tuna and think about where it actually came from. About 80% of the seafood consumed in the United States is imported. That small can in your hand began as fish caught by fleets on distant oceans, was processed and packed in facilities in places like Thailand or Ecuador, traveled across major shipping routes, and arrived at your Walmart. Behind that simple can is one of the most complex logistics chains in the global food system. People don't buy canned tuna because of that journey. They buy it because of what it delivers when everything else runs short. At a time when fresh food prices can shift significantly week to week, a steel can with a 3 to 5 year shelf life becomes one of the most reliable sources of protein you can keep on hand. It needs no refrigeration, takes up minimal pantry space, and is ready to use in under 2 minutes. Great value canned tuna at Walmart is a favorite for practical shoppers who buy in 4 or 8 can multi-packs. The larger the multi-pack, the lower the per-ounce cost. That's one of the most straightforward value calculations in the grocery store. Preparation is minimal. Drain the liquid, add a little mayonnaise, and you have a filling for a cold pasta dish, a sandwich, or a fresh salad topping. No fishy odor. No complicated prep. Just open, drain, and eat. Stock a multi-pack this week, and on the days when you have zero time or energy to cook, Something worth eating is already waiting in your pantry. 2. White rice. Of every item on this list, this one is the most underrated by a wide margin. Rice doesn't demand attention. It doesn't compete with the other ingredients on your plate. It simply sits beneath everything else and makes the whole meal work. Ground beef needs a base, eggs need something to round out the plate, canned chicken needs something to stretch it into a full meal. Rice is consistently that something, and it does the job without asking for any recognition. During periods of rising living costs, rice functions as one of the strongest budget stabilizers available. A large 20-pound bag at Walmart can produce somewhere between 180 and 220 servings. That brings the per-meal cost down to a matter of cents. And because it stores dry without refrigeration, it doesn't consume any electricity or freezer space. It sits in the corner of your pantry as a quiet guarantee that your family can always put together a complete dinner regardless of what else is available. Most people cook rice as they need it and move on. The smarter approach is to make a large batch at the start of the week, divide it into portions, and refrigerate them. Rice that has been chilled overnight becomes firmer in texture, which makes it perfect for fried rice with eggs or a quick bowl of rice soup that comes together in under 5 minutes. As long as there's a bag of rice in your pantry, you have a foundation for virtually any meal, made from virtually any combination of ingredients you have on hand. 1. Honey, we've spent this entire list talking about shelf life, but there is exactly one food on these shelves that essentially has no expiration date at all. Archaeologists discovered honey inside ancient Egyptian tombs that was over 3,000 years old. Properly sealed and stored, it was still completely edible after all that time, without a single artificial preservative. Honey is on this list for a reason that goes beyond shelf life. It's a natural sweetener that adds depth to sauces, glazes for proteins, teas, baked goods, and dozens of other applications. It supports immune function and has been used in wellness practices across cultures for centuries. It's also remarkably versatile in ways that other sweeteners simply aren't, because its flavor profile changes depending on the floral source of the nectar. A light clover honey and a rich buckwheat honey are both just honey on the label, but they behave differently in the kitchen and pair with different foods. If you open a jar and find small sugar crystals forming at the bottom, don't be alarmed and don't throw it away. That crystallization is not a sign of spoilage. It's actually confirmation that what you have is real, natural honey. Simply set the jar in a bowl of warm water for several minutes and stir gently. The crystals dissolve fully, and the honey returns to its smooth, pourable state. Keep honey in a sealed container away from direct sunlight, and it will outlast every other item in your pantry by a significant margin. In a year where food costs are pushing families to be more strategic about what they buy and when they buy it, honey stands as a rare reminder that some of the wisest purchases you can make are the ones with the longest horizon. It's not about spending more. It's about spending smarter and earlier before the price changes catch up with the shelf. Here's what ties all 12 of these items together. None of them require a major investment. None of them will go to waste if you store them correctly. Each one addresses a specific point of supply pressure that is already in motion and will likely be more visible to shoppers by the time August arrives. Flour, peanut butter, pasta, butter, olive oil, coffee, eggs, ground beef, canned chicken, canned tuna, rice, and honey. These aren't luxury items. They are the practical backbone of how millions of American families eat every week. The families who stock these items now, at current prices, with current availability, will have a meaningful advantage in the second half of this year. Not because they predicted something dramatic, but because they understood something simple. Supply pressures are already built in. The price changes just haven't all shown up yet. So here's the question worth sitting with before your next Walmart trip. Of these 12 items, which ones are already in your cart every week without you even thinking about it? And which ones are missing? Because the ones that are missing are exactly where the opportunity is. A well-stocked pantry doesn't just save you money on individual shopping trips. It gives you flexibility, it reduces the pressure of unexpected price spikes, and it means you're making dinner decisions based on what you feel like eating rather than what you can still afford at that moment. If this list helped you think differently about how you shop, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone in your family who handles the grocery runs. This is my channel, and we make these videos specifically to help you protect your household budget with information that's actually practical and timed to what's happening right now. Leave a comment below letting us know which of these 12 items you'll be adding to your cart first. We read every single one. See you in the